I'm trying to connect it from the very nature of humanity to the problems we're now seeing based on who we are physiologically with these big heads, creating all of these emotions that we feel so strongly that are then being manipulated so that we turn them against who we see as an other.
It's a rare Saturday recording. Today is Saturday, March 1st. Happy March, Josh.
Hey, how you doing? Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. Or is that May? I can't remember.
I don't know what that is. What is that? Maybe we don't need to talk about it. What is that?
You say it on the first of the month, first thing before you say anything else, and it's like good luck for the month, but I can't remember when that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
thank you then
I think of rabbits and I think of March.
Cool.
Yeah, March hare. Anyway.
March hare. I have heard that. I
yeah.
don't know why. Okay, go on.
Mad as a March hare.
How you doing, Josh?
I am doing well. I wanted to sort of ramble on about some thoughts I've been having in my Darwinian medicine class, where we talk about the nature of us being a species with a really big head and what that does to us.
We are actually a species that has a bigger head in relation to our body than other species.
Our brain is really freakishly large. In some ways, we have maxed out the possibilities for it. There is no further we can go in that direction. Certainly not and be a biped, not and actually have babies carried inside females. Without some other intervention, we can't. Our heads literally cannot get any bigger and be given birth to.
That's what you mean. We can't get through the birth canal.
We cannot get through the birth canal. We are also using a tremendous amount of energy with our brains. They use close to 20% of our total calories. So they're a huge, huge cost. And so we've basically shrunk everything else.
Does that cost go up when we think more?
No, actually, interestingly, it does not. It's a pretty steady state, which are used for some of the things like the default network that these things just engage.
The default mode network.
Yeah, exactly. These things just engage all the time, and you don't actually change how much energy you use. No, and so there's all sorts of things. We have extra large blood vessels to carry heat out of our heads because just all of this calorie use is burning up energy. And so we're burning sugar constantly. Everything about us is dedicated to getting a constant supply of glucose into the brain without ever having an interruption. You're dead in 30 seconds if you don't have glucose in your brain. Maybe faster. If it's going down rapidly, you're going down rapidly.
So when you die due to heart failure, it's not because your cells are not getting what they need, it's because your brain dies because it doesn't get.
It's usually oxygen that goes first.
The oxygen is the problem.
It's hard to say. Is it? It's the wood on the fire. Is it the oxygen burning the wood, or is it the wood? If you don't have those things,
kind of a silly question.
They kind of need to go together. But so the biology of the brain in many ways constrains our biology and in many ways constrains our behavior. So when you are born, your brain is so tremendously large, you can, just if you put your hands up over your head and touch your fingertips, that's roughly the size of your head.
I remember my kids could not get their arms over their head.
Sort of just about right there is where that limit is. And so that is as big as you can get out of a biped. And so then the rest of the development has to happen outside of the womb. And the babies are tremendously helpless. One, they have this huge head. They can't even keep their head up.
Hold their head up.
And so that's flopping all around. So you have to support them all the time. And they need constant food or they're going to die instantly because their brain is just burning up all of those calories all the time. I said it was a fifth, but I'm talking about adults. In infants, it's going to be like a third. It's really? A ridiculous amount of their total energy. Well, think about it just in terms of volume. Yeah. So, and they don't come out all of that fat. They build up fat after they're born so that they never ever run out of calories. And so they're born, I don't know, 4 or 5% fat, and they have to get up to like 20% fat just really quickly. But yeah, so that requires a ton of energy from the woman who has just been carrying this very large creature inside her. That's, larger than many, mammals' offspring in relation to her body size.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah.
And she's had to get it
even bigger for my wife.
And the birth canal is tightly constrained by being a biped. So the pelvis, it can only get so wide.
Yeah.
And so all of this is a tremendous cost. So we assume that the brain is doing something that's a benefit for it. But you can see how this is sort of a one-way ticket of evolution. Like once you've gone all this direction, you need to cut down on the size of your gut, because you can no longer spend that much energy on your gut if you're going to support your brain. So you need to cook your food. Things like this, all of our behaviors become dedicated to keeping our brain alive. And start guiding the way we exist. We need constant supplies of food. The mother can't feed herself and her baby successfully. She needs other people there. Usually it's, some sort of male mate, something like that, but it also is going to be in a larger extended family. What if he doesn't succeed in the hunt that day? They can't all starve.
Right.
So they have to be part of a larger group. And so this kind of dependency and sharing of resources is built into our very, very early psyche, that we can't live without this. And so when
you say early psyche, you mean early in terms of an individual's development, or early in terms of our development as humans?
Our development as humans, but I suspect we actually, there was that wonderful phrase about ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny.
Yeah.
So that we go through our own coming to be, ontogeny, ontos being, we go through our own process of coming to be with our phylogenetic changes. So we sort of copy what we've gone through. We start off as a fish and we slowly turn into a baby.
Right.
And then as a baby, we go through some of the same things. So for example, chimpanzees can drink and breathe at the same time. We cannot.
Yeah.
We cannot because we have modified our throats for language. Language is that important that we're willing to die every once in a while from something stuck in our throats that didn't happen to chimpanzees. We go through that same thing as babies to adults. So babies can nurse and breathe at the same time. As adults, we could not do that. So their larynx, where their epiglottis closes over.
Evolutionarily, we decided that we did not want to give it up that early, that yet.
So it moves down our throat as we mature. And so you can actually see, a 7-year-old is roughly where a Homo erectus would have been in terms of the stage of evolution. 7-8-year-old, something like that. And so you can see how we're going through all of these steps.
We don't rebuild each time. We just add on.
We just keep on adding on to what was already there. Exactly. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of how it constrains our psychology, is that we have these really fundamental things that are involved of, we need to talk to each other. So we are really to risk our lives by lowering our larynx. This is a biological thing that's happening because of our brains needing all of this support, needing a community, needing sharing, requiring these things of us also psychologically. If we don't like community and support and sharing, we don't fit in with that, and there's a problem. It also constrains the other side of things. When we would get to a kill site, there was a giant mound of beef, mound of meat of some sort. If we got that meat, our group, our tribe, our whatever our group was going to survive for the next week or so. And because they were going to have plenty of calories. There was calories in the bone marrow. There was things we could cut with our tools that nothing else could get to. This was a huge source of food. Who was going to be competing for it with us? Us, right? Another group of us. So I've talked about this in terms of throwing hand axes and aggression in that sense. But it means that we are fighting for our lives every time we meet strangers. And so, while at the same time, we cannot survive without community, without sharing, without working together, we are also incredibly suspicious and aggressive towards anyone from the outside.
And we need to be in order to survive.
And we need to be in a way that other animals don't, right? Other animals are territorial. Other animals will share their food, but they don't do it the way we do. They don't do it as a absolute constrained portion of their evolution, where if they didn't act this way, there was zero chance that they would get through the next couple of days. This was a very, very tight set of constraints. Just the way our brain is, sized maximally for our pelvic diameters, right? That these are biological constraints where there's no way around it.
Yeah.
These are psychological constraints where we need to be community and working with each other, and we can't survive without it psychologically. We also are that kind of pressure behind our aggression. There is that kind of pressure behind our aggression.
There's evolutionary pressure to share and communicate and be in community. And there's evolutionary pressure to absolutely fight as hard as you can against the other group.
As soon as you see them.
As soon as you see them.
As soon as you see them, because otherwise you won't get the food for your people.
And this is why we both intimately understand that there will be enough and we need to share, and there is also a zero-sum relationship.
And we never see anything outside of a zero-sum relationship. There's only one pile of meat.
Well, but
that's all we ever understand.
Once that pile of meat is for us, then we share, and it's not
right.
Anymore.
Exactly. No, we have to. We must. But when we see another group, everything
changes.
We're all fighting for this one thing, and all survival is for this one thing. There is no possibility of there being a win-win situation. It's really built into us.
So we need to get past our own evolutionary psychology.
What we start needing to do is what religions try to do, where they say, well, we are all brothers. This is what, this is how you start to say, oh, we're all one big group.
Is that what religions try to do? Really?
Well, they do both of the things that we've been talking about. They encourage you, take in the stranger, feed them when they come. They say all these things, right?
Well, at least on paper they say that.
And then they also encourage you to go out and kill everyone who's different from you.
Everyone else.
I'm a jealous God. You shall have another gods before me. All of these things are also on the paper, right? So this dichotomy that we see in our sort of spiritual tradition is a biological one.
It's a biological imperative. It's an evolutionary biological
imperative. And so you can't blame religion for being built by humans. It's the way we are. And so what we need to do is look at the sort of more transcendent side of things, where religions try and help us figure out how not to kill everyone you see, and not look at the more parts where we're actually helping people. And the idea of charity is something that is built into many religions' ideas of working with each other, as is the ideas of warfare and killing the infidel.
Yeah, we wouldn't need charity if the community just took care of everybody.
Well, because that would be charity. I mean, but
it wouldn't be charity if it was just the way the community operated all the time for everyone.
Okay, I mean, I'm thinking of
so you were never in need, and therefore there's no need for charity because everyone has what they need.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the Greek word caritas, which is like a giving love, which means like the love you have for the people you are with.
Oh, you don't mean charity as in giving to those in need. You mean having charity for the rest of humanity and those you meet and see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
you mean a much bigger definition.
Yeah. I mean, and so in a religious context, this would be the lion lies down with the lamb. This is the kingdom of God.
Okay.
But and this is
the kingdom of God, otherwise known as the barter system, when we all
no, not
together
necessarily,
peacefully
absolutely not. No, but it is something where you start to acknowledge that we are not different groups fighting against each other, but we are, one group that needs to work together, and as our universe is more connected.
That would be growing past our evolutionary psychology, which
is
tells
really
us
difficult.
Yeah.
And so part of the problem, and this is something that has also come up repeatedly, is straight out the oligarchs, because we are also have jealousy built directly into our psychology. Mm-hmm. If someone is taking from you in your group and you're not getting the resources that they're getting, they're stealing from you and you hate them and you're angry all the time that they exist there. And you are suffering directly. And this is going to be on a psychological level. It's also a physiological level, because you're feeling that anger. Anger is a real physiological thing. There's corticosteroids. You're suffering because of it, and your blood pressure is going to go up. Your cholesterol is going to go up simply because an oligarch exists, and fundamentally that they have resources that they are hoarding, and you can't get them. And all of your 2.5 million years of big-brained evolution says that's wrong. That's really dangerous. It's dangerous for me and my family to have other people hoarding the resources and I can't get them.
Keeping the resources in jail, as I like to say.
And so this is also deeply, deeply programmed into us. Other animals get jealous. Other animals do not get jealous the way humans do. So I deeply believe.
How do we know other animals get jealous?
Oh, you can see it all the time. The experiment has been done. You give a bunch of dogs food, and then you give half of them food and not the other half. And if they're doing tricks, the ones that don't get the reward won't do the trick the next time because they're going to be upset with you. They're going to turn their backs on you. I certainly see it with my own animals all the time. One of them will get jealous of the other. The dog doesn't like it if I'm petting the cat. It's exactly
okay.
It's exactly like when you're with your kids.
Okay.
But they're a little less psychotic about it than humans are, because their entire existence doesn't depend on it. In a wolf pack, obviously, they need to share the food, otherwise they'll starve. So there definitely is a sense of who gets what. But there's also a very strong hierarchy, who gets to eat first. And this is all sort of understood.
These things are delineated and understood.
And as long as you don't break that, the jealousy isn't going to be too bad. The puppy isn't jealous that the leader gets to eat first.
Right.
Because that's just the way things are.
Right.
As primates, we definitely understand hierarchy. We understand that there's going to be, people at the top of a ladder and people at the bottom. But if the people at the top are not sharing with the people at the bottom, this in a tribal society meant that there was a real problem. And so, many groups would have things like a potlatch, where the wealthy members of the tribe would compete to give away goods to the rest of the tribe and support everyone in this way. And this helped fend off jealousy. It is absolutely in our nature to be jealous of anything we don't have that someone else has.
In Korea, when I was in Korea, I worked in a school, and when one of the teachers would get a new suit or a new car, whenever you got something new, you had to get everyone else a gift.
Yeah.
Or else you would get the evil eye.
Yeah, and I get that. That's there for a reason. It's to build the community. It's to stop that kind of jealousy, and that's a real thing.
It's an actual above board admission.
Yeah.
That I don't want you to be jealous of me. So part of the cost of me getting this is me giving you something.
Yeah.
And it's right there. It's fascinating.
And so somehow we're turning what should be a resentment of the oligarchs having all the resources sort of against ourselves. And this is in many ways what's happened to us politically.
Isn't that just brilliant? That's just brilliant.
I know. So let me give you an example of sort of the direction I'm thinking. I haven't quite worked out all of the details of this, but when we brought, meaning my ancestors, Africans from Africa and enslaved them, they knew who to blame. They knew it wasn't their fault. It was someone else's. When we decided women couldn't own property in this country and didn't give them the vote for the first 150 years, they knew who to blame. They knew whose fault it was. When we as, particularly privileged men, but in general sort of American society, who think we should be the ones in charge of everything, when we start to feel oppressed, who are we supposed to blame? And so very often, men start blaming women, white men start blaming minorities. We feel this sense of we have been oppressed by the system as a whole, and it can't be us that's doing our own oppressing. So we turn our sort of inner jealousy and rage of this system is crushing us against whatever other we perceive. So it's we start doing what we would do to the other tribe who's taking our things, right? The other tribe is coming for that big pile of meat, and we say that's our pile of meat. So this is, the backlash against DEI. This is the backlash in favor of, traditional wives, the trad wife movement, which is just insane. And these are things, again, that are playing on our inner drives that are built into the way we've.
Yeah, but this is us doing this to ourselves.
Well, absolutely, it is us doing it to ourselves, and it's because we're not focusing on what's really happening. Is the resources are being hoarded by a very, very small minority, and this shouldn't be possible in a democracy. Simply, the competition for resources in a democracy should be based ultimately on your ability to vote, not on the amount of resources someone has. Like if one person has half the resources and all of the people have the other half of the resources divided amongst them, they should outvote that person with half the resources.
Yeah.
And yet he has all the money.
Yeah.
So he controls everything.
Yeah. And wait, let's listen. What do we hear? Not even an echo, right into the void. Like I hear you, and I'm right with you.
You're listening to the void.
There's nothing. There's
you don't
not
want
even
the void
an
to talk
echo.
back.
There's not even echo. It's like we say these things, and we're like, you're absolutely right. And now people are even saying this in mass media, and it's too late. They have the levers of power. You're right. This should not be possible in a democracy.
It should not be.
But there's no stopping it.
Right.
There's literally no stopping it.
I'm trying to connect it.
Midterms.
I'm trying to connect it from the very nature of humanity to the problems we're now seeing based on who we are physiologically with these big heads, creating all of these emotions that we feel so strongly that are then being manipulated so that we turn them against who we see as an other. And we don't then really realize that what we need is some sort of transfer of resources. Some people need to share.
So as I often ask you when we get to this point, what do you see as the prescription? How do we move forward at this moment in time?
Understanding our own power as a community, and we are the tribe. We are the group. We need to work with each other, and this is always the goal. I mean, this is what set forth the utopias. This is the idea of how do we help each other so that we can all prosper. This was what we started to do as a nation. It's what we tried to do. We're all together. We're all equal. We all have the same abilities, and we're going to move forward. Right from the very beginning, there were problems with that, as we know. But this was the dream, and it's always been the dream, and it's always been the dream of our democracy. And we have undermined it ourselves fundamentally because of our jealousy. And we've focused the jealousy. Well, we've had it focused for us in many ways, but the jealousy is now focused on the wrong groups. We've decided that the problem is DEI and people taking our jobs.
No, we haven't even decided that. That's just what we've been told. No one decided that for us. I mean, no one decided that holistically. There was no groundswell. There was no grassroots movement.
But what I'm saying
DEI. It was literally one day we woke up and this was what was happening.
Our fundamental emotions of jealousy and anger are because of what happens when we are not properly shared with. We're like 3-year-olds who are upset that we didn't get the cake. And we can see the cake over there, and we're not getting any of that cake.
Well, I mean, you're basically talking about that what would essentially be the MAGA group as these people who didn't get the cake and now want the cake.
I think we're all in the same group to a certain extent.
I don't know if like
some
all
of
the
us
people who worked at USAID for 20, 30 years and are now finding themselves out on the street without any hope of employment. That's not people who didn't get the cake.
Well, I wonder about that. Did they have tens of millions of dollars for the wonderful work they were doing? Or were they working at fairly low pay, helping the entire world and dedicating their entire way of life to sharing and helping?
Right.
Do you think that they looked at the oligarchs and said, "I'm really glad about this system. I'm
no,
super."
Of course not.
No, so they were also in it. Some people were a little bit easier to manipulate into blaming DEI. I don't think the people from USAID were blaming diversity for the reason they were not paid well to do their amazing job. I think we're all in the same boat in that there's only 12 guys who are doing all of the robbing from us. They are the robber barons, and we're all suffering because of it. And some of us, and apparently a slight minority of Americans majority of Americans has decided it's the fault of diversity in some way.
I don't know. I just don't know that I agree with that statement, because I don't know that was what was on offer when they voted this way. Was that really what was being attacked all throughout the?
I think so. I mean, that was in the midterm elections that were won by was it West Virginia or Virginia? I can't remember. It was the governor who went against DEI, who became a Republican governor in a relatively blue state. They changed everything on that. DeSantis went the same way. It was all against the political correctness and the DEI and the anti-woke and all of that. That was a lot of it. So anyway, I don't need to get into the politics. I'm just saying that it's our fundamental emotions are not just that we have these emotions, but we can't get rid of them. We have to acknowledge that they're based in our biology.
In our evolution, yes.
In our evolutionary biology, and that they're much more intense than any other species. These are unique human traits.
And it's by design, is what you're saying. It's by design. It's part of why we have survived this long.
It's coupled to our big brains. We cannot leave these things behind without leaving behind the big brains. So these are things that are directly built in. Just like jealousy. If a female goes and has sex with someone and comes back, and now the male is trying to raise her child, he's going to be deeply evolutionarily hurt. All of these resources are going to not his genes. So he's going to be murderously jealous. Most animals are not that murderously jealous in the same way. They're not as likely to kill their mate under the same circumstances. Human males are very likely to.
I know, it sounds absurd, but we have many stories like this.
Yeah.
So.
Women are also jealous, slightly different contexts, but similar kinds of things, where if a man starts spending time with another woman, her babies are going to starve. She can't let that happen. So, there's some biological aspects to gender. There's some that are determined by culture, but there's also fundamental aspects of everyone feels intense jealousy if you see your future being taken away. And so this is happening at the interpersonal level as well. If you say your future being taken away by someone else, you become, enraged. And this
is what's happening all around
deeply in.
Government workers, thousands and thousands and thousands of government workers are suddenly finding themselves without a future.
Well, think of the incels. If you want to get some people who are totally duped.
I don't want to. I don't want to do that.
But that is their rage, right? They think that rich people took their women, and therefore they should kill women. I mean, that's sort of like their straight out theory.
Rich people took their women, or the women want the rich people, and so
same thing.
It's
the women's fault, exactly. But it's that same exact jealousy.
The way you first described it, why wouldn't the rage be against the rich people who took their women?
Well, it should be.
Well,
but
but it's not.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
What I'm saying.
So that's this whole twist that we have is all about taking that jealousy and rage and turning it towards the wrong people.
Yeah.
All right.
They're really good at it.
They're really good at it, but I really want to end on we have sharing, we have community, we have communication as a basis for sharing community built into our psychology just as deeply, and it is just as tremendously important to who we are. It is something that makes us human in a way that other animals don't have, that makes us able to succeed in ways that other animals don't. It is not our jealousy and hatred and rage and anger at the other that has built the world. It is our ability to work together. And so, I think I still have hope, but we really need to get there, and we need to do it, through democracy and through working together to build a nation that actually cares about itself.
Yeah, itself and its people.
As
individuals.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Eric.
Fascinating. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
Mind-body evolution with Dr. Josh Stout and Eric Burkell. Go to mindbodyevolution.info for more.